Hello, wait a minute. There you go. Hello, my friend. And it's been a long time since I've done this. Hello, my friend. Welcome to WW Radio Live. More importantly, welcome home. Welcome back. Or if this is your first time watching, thank you so very much for being here. Please let me know if it is your first time where you're watching from. And even if it's not, let me know where you might be watching the show from tonight. First and foremost, not only thank you for being here tonight, but thank you so much if you did follow along on our coverage of D23, the ultimate Disney fan event over the past few days. It continues to be wonderfully overwhelming. It's how I described the show floor. It's how I described some of the announcements, and even now, still sort of, to a certain degree, kind of reeling, capturing my thoughts, pulling them together. And of course, I'm going to have a full discussion and breakdown of all the announcements from the studios, from parks and resorts, as well as talk about what we saw, heard, learned, and experienced on the show floor, as well as some of the other things that happened while we were there. Thank you for all of you who are watching on YouTube as well as Facebook. And like I said, tonight really is all about you. Needless to say, there has been a flurry of excitement and announcements and comments. And as we are wont to do in the Disney community, have very personal, very emotional reactions to some of the announcements that we heard, not just on Friday night and Saturday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and certainly some clarification of some things on Monday morning. Rivers of America, I am looking at you. But again, I'm going to save some of my thoughts. I'll certainly respond to questions that you might have, but I really want to hear from you. And we can, look, I know a lot of people are having very wonderfully passionate responses to it. And that's no other theme park, I think, the same way uses the words like love the way we feel about this company, right? It's different, I'm not sure how many other Six Flags or like podcast, there might be some out there, but we love and we're so passionate about this company. And I understand the very intense, emotional, sometimes knee-jerk reactions that come out. I think we all feel that. Some people are just more vocal about it on social, and that's okay. Like, that's what the platforms are there for, so that we can sort of express ourselves. We have sort of a sounding board and have a hopefully civil and intelligent. That's sort of where I very much draw the line. You can have, whether it's about Disney or anything else, you can have different, like, that's the beauty of being human, right? We have differences of opinions, but be civil, be friendly about it. And at the end of the day, right? And look, this is more than a theme park to me. This is my job. It's my career. It is like my life. Remember, keep things in perspective. Keep things in context. The feelings that you feel right now will eventually dissipate. I promise you. For those of you that had the toad-ins back in the late, I promise these things will go away. But whether you are sad, whether you're excited, whatever it might be, I want to hear from you, because I think, yes, the announcements on Monday might have taken a lot away for some people, and I will save my thoughts, but this really is about you, and I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your feelings, whether you were there on the show floor, whether you're in the room at the Honda Center, or if you were following along on social. Wine and Chocolate Valerie says, there was so much information. You're right. And that's a good thing. Like, we got exactly what we wanted, right? We wanted it to not be blue sky. We wanted real announcements. We wanted real dates. And obviously, we're talking a lot about parks, resorts, but even from the studios and Disney Plus, we wanted, concrete things. And from a parks perspective, certainly shovel and dirt. I will tell you that Saturday night, and I'll share the story on the podcast. After the event was over, we came back to the hotel, said, let's just sort of reconvene in the lobby. I got there first. Becky got there after me. And then two other people who were with me, Corey and Cassie, came over. And we just sat there silent. Like, we were numb. Like, my brain was very mushy for a lot of reasons, because there was just so much. To a certain degree, be careful what you wish for, because we got that in spades. never expecting the voluminous amount of announcements. Like, it's still taking me time to go, oh yeah, remember this one too? Like, we sort of quickly glossed over Zootopia coming to Animal Kingdom, whatever it might be, because of some of the other sort of major announcements that came back. I am going to quickly go through. Josh Olive says, I'm really excited for some announcements and heartbroken by one. Josh, I don't think that your sentiments are unique to you. I get that, right? That's what I mean. Like, it's one of the things, and please understand when I talk about this, it's in the context of the overall overarching talk. It's when I was given that incredible privilege and opportunity and responsibility to sit and talk with Josh tomorrow the day after these announcements. I took that very, very, very seriously because I knew what we were all thinking. Obviously, I didn't want to talk about specifics in terms of attractions, but there were some things that were overwhelming, and then obviously we got clarification on other things as well. Heather, yes, it was very nice to meet. Look, my favorite part of I'll just call it Expo for brevity's sake. My favorite part of Expo is not what happens in the pavilions. It's not what happens in the Honda Center. It's not what happens. It's what happens on the show floor. Like, it really is all about people. So thank you. Joe Kalinsky, nice to see you as well. Amy says, I was ready for new change for Animal Kingdom and Dinoland. Daniel Grant watching from Disney's backyard in Winter Garden. When is the updated? Darren's asking when the updated. Yeah, so all of my audio tours, once again, they were outdated like the day after they came out. There really are snapshots in time, especially, it's interesting because between the audio tours, we just did our top 10-ish favorite sounds in Walt Disney World, and some of the sounds that were very meaningful for me that were on that list were things like the sound of the riverboat, things that will be lost but be replaced. Again, I'm going to save my thoughts, but they will be replaced by something else that will be a new sound, not just for us, but for a new generation of fans beyond us. Kyle says, I was listening to your interview with Josh today. Loved hearing the enthusiasm in both your voices. Kyle, like I said, to be given such a unique and special opportunity. I'll talk more about this on the show, but I was ridiculously excited, but I felt so at ease because that's one of the things that Josh does is he makes you feel at ease, the way he looks into your eyes, the way he talks to you. And we'll talk more about this on the show, but there was something very comfortable, I think, for both of us in that conversation. I don't even like to call it an interview because it really was more of a conversation than anything else. Let me keep going. Let me see. Sean says, I'm sad about the Rivers of America, but I get it, and I'm excited for the new Cars Land. Happy that it is different from the California one. Sean, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I am as well, and that's one of the things I talked to him about. I'm happy that there was no copy and paste from any one attraction or park to another. Everything that we heard is brand new. We don't need to go into specifics of what they may or may not replace. That's something, too, is I think there's a lot of conclusions that are being drawn when specifics have not been laid out. I caution you, because we're all friends, whether we've met, I caution you in a very friendly way. I take off my glasses for effect. To be careful, you don't need to hear this from me, but be careful what you read online, especially from unofficial sources, of which I am admittedly one, right? Be careful what you read from unofficial sources. 2, be careful, take it from whence it comes, right? Look sometimes at the source itself and maybe the history behind them. Also look at the timing of some of the explosionary I just made up that word. I don't think it's a word. But the headlines that are doing exactly what they are meant to do, which is get you to click, get you to share. I've been forwarded and I've read some of the articles that are being passed around. And sometimes the headline does not necessarily reflect what the content says. And the content itself is often contradictory please don't believe anything from whatever source it might be, which is why I don't like talking about, and I don't like saying this is what's going to happen, trust me, because nobody knows until it comes out officially. So be very careful before you start, wanting to, again, have very emotional responses, and they run the gamut from being sad to being very, very angry. And whether you're angry at Disney or angry at people who disagree with you, like, temper that a little bit until we know officially. Certainly things like Rivers America, I get. Nobody on this side, being the non-official Disney side, nobody knows for certain where Monsters, Inc. is going to go. When we know, then feel however you want to feel, react to it, but be cautious. So I just sort of ask you to temper those emotions a little bit, and certainly, look, feeling the way you might feel about something going away, I very much understand. Like, dude, I'm the guy that cries on the podcast all the time. I'm the sentimental, emotional guy who grew up going to these parks every year since 1971. So I do have very fond memories of things that are going away. But again, we will save this part of the discussion for a later date, because I do want to hear from you. Some of you are talking about some of the things that were not mentioned. Absolutely valid points. And I think that there is a very deliberate reason for that, because we are already overwhelmed with the 50 or so, because that's what they were, 50 or so individual announcements that came out during the Disney Experiences presentation. You start to dilute the gravity and importance and the meaning and the impact of them if you have too many, right? You can't sort of give everything everywhere I didn't mean sort of to be a movie reference, but you can't give everything everywhere all at once. There's a reason why, and there's a strategy behind the idea of releasing information little by little, because once you start talking about imagination, Epcot, new resorts, some things will get lost in the shuffle, and you don't want to do that, just purely from a marketing perspective. Like, you have to sort of be cautious. So yes, there are glaring omissions, but I think take solace in knowing that those announcements are coming, and are coming at times that are going to be very intentional and will hopefully make more sense. Look, say what you will about me. Right? I'm a fan first. I love this company a lot. I also have a lot of trust, right? And I don't work for the company. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I know that, 50 some odd years of history behind it, I have come to respect and trust the decisions of people who are much, much smarter than me, whether they are Imagineers, whether they are executives, are they financial analysts, whatever it might be. So I put that trust in it. I don't love every single thing from beginning to end, and that's okay. But I still do have the trust in the people that are smarter than me. And when I have a conversation with somebody like a Josh and some of the other folks and executives, I know that the decisions are also made from people who are fans first, and that is where my trust comes from. So, Becky says, we didn't speak. We just sat there. That's why Becky got there. We just sat there quietly on these couches. Not even just like racing through our phones, and just sort of staring blankly into space, because there was a lot we were trying to take in, and a lot that we were sort of forgetting along the way. Josh Olive says, who wants to make a drinking game out of how many times Becky brings up the new fleet of cruise ships? Josh, I hope you're drinking something that has 0 alcohol content in it. Otherwise, make sure you're not driving. Corey says, we could not come up with a word to say. Corey, thank you again for being. Corey's been the keeper of the box, as it were, for many expos. Ashley Scarpa says, I'm so excited for all the new adventures heading our way. I feel like with all new things, the reality is that we lose other things. That's hard, but it's also progress. We need to love things when we have them, be open to embracing new things when they come. Ashley, that is very, very well said. And you're right. We have to sometimes temper our emotions of the things that we lose in anticipation for the things that are coming. And I want to save my discussion specifically about this and examples of this in the past until the podcast. One, because I have to like fully flesh out my thoughts, and two, because I want to have a discussion about it with the folks who are going to join me on that show. And I see a lot of you talking about the memories of Tom Sawyer Island and the memories of Rivers of America. I think you also need to keep in mind this. Disney is not blind to this fact, right? Disney is not blind to the fact that, one, not every decision is going to make everybody happy. And two, when you take something away, you are taking away someone's memory. You're taking away, but you're not, right? You're not losing any of those memories, right? We keep those memories close to us. Look, I have a lot of memories, of experiences and attractions that I had in the parks that are no longer there. And I'm not sad. Like, what's the quote, right? Don't be sad that it's over. Like, be happy that it's something like that. Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened. And that's, whether it's the Skyway or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, they made way for something else, right? They made way for something that was better. So that's what I'm looking for. And then Randall Jackson, not Randy Jackson, very different Randy. Very, very excited. Look, we got what we wanted, right? How many years, raise your hand, how many years have you been asking for Villains Land, been dreaming about a Villains Land? Your wish finally did come true. And I think it's important that we focus on those things as well. And I think this is what happens, right? And I talk about this when I give presentations and I talk about Disney and customer service and the Disney experiences. And you might have 50 amazing interactions or things that happen to you in a single day when you go to a Disney park. But if one bad thing happens, that's the thing that you remember. And I think to a certain degree, it's unfortunate that that's what has been happening with the announcements from this past weekend. People are so focused on, well, you're taking away my childhood. You're taking away Tom Sawyer Island. You're taking away that you're losing sight of the fact that we are not only gaining those attractions, which, look, those are not just going to satisfy, but they're going to attract a lot of new visitors to that park. But you also are getting the 48 other things that they announced. You're getting Villains Land. We still are hearing more about what else is coming. So it's a shame that becomes like the sole focus for a lot of people. And that's why, I haven't read a lot, but as I have been forwarded or I've seen some of the comments and the sadness and the anger and sometimes very excessive on both on the anger part, especially towards other people who had nothing to do with that decision. I was like, wait, what about everything else that we got, right? What about everything else that is coming, everything else that we should be excited for? Let me see. What is my guess in terms of where Monsters is going? I'm going to save that Ballpark Explorer because, one, I'm 97% sort of locked in on where I think it's going to happen, but I think there are easy arguments to be made for not one, not two, but multiple different locations in that park. So before I plant my flag, I want to do a little bit more research before I'm ready to say. I will say, though, by the way, my son is devastated about the loss of Dinosaur. Like, he's always loved that attraction since he was a little kid. And as excited as he is for Indiana Jones coming, like he's like, there's the two sides for him. He's incredibly excited about Indiana Jones coming, what this attraction is going to be. But even for him, right? And he's 18 years, how old is he? I don't know, 19 years old. He's also sad about what he's losing. So he too, even, sort of this generation behind me, has a shorter span of important memories to him that he has to sort of temper against what he is going to get in lieu of the thing that he is going to lose. And at some point, I think that pendulum will start to shift away from being sad about what you're losing to being excited about what it is that you're going to get. Rich says, Excited, exactly how some are feeling about rivers is how I felt when the Epcot wand went away. So many memories or feeling. I'm not sure if Rich is serious or not. Not everybody loved the wand, but that's Rich. That's the thing. For all these things that go away, for everything that comes new, a lot of times something new has to come in. And look, I understand the, again, emotional argument. Well, we have the blessing of size. Why don't they just build something new? It's a whole different ballgame in terms of planning, preparation, time, certainly money. And I believe that there are longer term plans for larger growth and expansion. Like, you don't just be like, well, we're going to build Monsters Inc. land in some, new piece of property that hasn't been touched yet. It's infrastructure, it's time. And I think that's where we have to sort of understand that it's easier to put something in a place that is already constructed as opposed to starting from, literally moving untouched dirt. I'm going to quickly I'm trying to quickly catch up on comments. A lot of talk about riverboats. A lot of talk about. I want to sort of, again, this is not about me and my thoughts, but I want to hold on to these. I want to sort of hold on to my sort of personal feelings and see what your thoughts are. Heather, love the interview with Josh. Thank you very much. Again, Josh made it very easy. Josh is he's not just a remarkable leader to me, but I think he's just a good human being. And that really sort of came through. I really felt that my conversation with him was, and because it wasn't, it was unscripted. There was no sort of discussion beforehand. Like, that was just two guys, for me, I felt like I was not just sitting across from the head of Disney Experiences and Parks and Resorts, but just a fellow Disney fan that was given the opportunity to share all of this information with us and help sort of steer what is happening, because he does come from a fan perspective first. Mel Pick says, I'm still baffled as to why Tomorrowland Speedway is still going. Again, Mel, I think, look, if we start to talk about the things that we did not hear about, that's an equally long list, right? Imagination. Look, I planted my flag saying we're going to get announcements not just about Tomorrowland and Magic Kingdom, but Tomorrowland and Disneyland. Crickets, right? We didn't get it. And I'm completely okay with that. One, because I have no idea what I'm talking about. And two, it probably is on the drawing board or the announcement board for somewhere later on. Again, you can't announce everything all at once. I absolutely get it. Look, I am a tiny little person with a tiny little podcast who does tiny little events, and there are plenty of things that are on the whiteboard and on my notebook that I haven't announced yet because I can't announce them all at the same time, right? There's a logical reasoning towards trickling these things out. I'm infinitesimally small compared to, the Disney parks. So I understand the logic and the reasoning, and I think we have to do that as well, right? They can't announce everything all at the same time for a variety of reasons. And keep in mind, too, everything can't happen all at the same time. There are limited, forget funds, right? There are limited construction workers, right? There are limited electricians, there are limited engineers. So you can't build everything all at the same time. These all take time, both, domestically, internationally, Florida and California. So it's sometimes hard, again, from the emotional perspective to think about things from a business perspective. It's why I often will sometimes very quickly take off my fan hat and put on, sometimes a little bit more of a logical, removing emotion from it, understanding the business reasons. It doesn't mean it doesn't make me sad, right? I'm sad about the riverboat. I hear the riverboat. I heard the riverboat today. Knowing that it's going away, of course that makes me sad. Knowing that we lose other things, of course it makes me sad. That doesn't mean I don't understand. Doesn't mean I don't understand why necessarily that might happen. So let me see. Chuck Munson says, as I've said on the Facebook page, I'm extremely sorry to see POA. POA. I don't know. I think that's Rivers of America. I think it's Rivers of America and the Liberty Bell leave. Sometimes it's a game. But that's my early years. The parks have to change and grow and be nostalgic for next generation. Chuck, you're 100% right. You need to keep in mind that the announcements that are being made now, the attractions that are being built and dreamt of and imagineered right now, yes, they are for us, but more importantly, they are for the generation behind us. Look at some of the announcements that are being made. Monsters, Inc., Cars. These are the attractions that my kids grew up on, that they can't wait to go and see and experience, but more importantly, like us, they want to be able to take their kids to the parks and be like, these are the movies I grew up with. These are the movies I sat down and watched with my mom and dad over and over again. The same way my parents, I'm going to get choked up. The same way my parents did that for me. Whether it was watching Tom Sawyer, The Swiss Family Robinson, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. These attractions are not just being built for our generation, but the generation and generations that come behind us. And I think that's why we have to sometimes keep that in perspective. Think back to attractions that have come and gone. Think to attractions that are leaving now and the ones that are coming in. And you can see sort of the generational buckets that each one fits in, and maybe understand a little bit better why something like Cars in Magic Kingdom is going to be far more attractive, not just to a younger generation, but maybe somebody who hasn't been to Walt Disney World in 5 years, 10 years. A family from the Midwest who has, children who are 7, 8, 9 years old are going to they're going to be wide-eyed and say, I need to go visit Cars Land, because that's what they grew up with. So again, I have to sort of sometimes take my personal feelings and emotional hat off to sort of try and understand better why things are coming. Adam Brickner said, did Josh give any insight into a Condor Man ride is coming? We had a long talk about that. Unfortunately, the recorder had stopped by then. I'm kidding, of course. Top 10 things that did not come up in my conversation with the Disney Experiences chairman, Josh D'Amaro. Condor Man was not mentioned once. Kyle, you and I think very much are alike. We are very in alignment. I hope the Encanto area brings authentic Colombian food to the parks. Vibrante y Vivido, I'm looking at you. Buñuelos, I'm looking at you. There's a lot of Colombian food that I, too, would love to see come to that park as well. Let me just quickly go. Let me see. Beth says, I'm excited about the new nighttime parades, making me seriously consider flying into MTO, hitting MK, to see that the night before my back-to-back dream cruises. Again, the parade, one of the things that was on a lot of people's very high on their list of things that they wanted to see was announced and got glossed over, right? It was very, like, begging for a nighttime parade got glossed over because we are focused on so many other things, and sometimes some of the things that, are a little upsetting to people. Cassie Tucker, who was there with us in the booth and on the show floor, says my mind is still exploding. Cassie, you and me as well. I haven't, I've been scrambling to do other stuff today, but I have not been able to start even getting my thoughts down on, not that I use paper, but, metaphorically on paper. Kim says, so many exciting announcements, but I will say that the Walt Disney animatronic brought me to tears. You and me both, Kim. I think this is where this is part of what I wanted to talk to Josh about, was this emotional aspect to it. Clearly, the response has been very emotional. I, like you, and I love the way it was presented. I love the way that Walt is leading the Disneyland 70th anniversary and the incredible challenge and responsibility of creating an audio animatronic figure that is without a doubt going to not just elicit emotion from people, but probably also going to be easily attract criticism, right? Even the statue in Epcot, people have something to say about for one reason or another. It's very hard. I mean, part of the reason why I think we haven't seen it in so long is because it is such a challenge. I couldn't imagine Tom Hanks sort of having to shoulder that responsibility of playing him on screen. I'm not sure there's many other actors who could have done that, certainly done it as well. But, there is great responsibility. And look, Disney knows there's also pressure that comes with it because, as we have seen over the last few days, we are very clearly passionate about that, and certainly about the folder, about the founder as well. Sorry, I'm quickly trying to catch up. Becky says the amount of news and info in the space of 2+ hours was so overwhelming. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. I am as well. Jennifer Hoffman says Walt loved change. The question of what would Walt think, what would Walt do, there is no one who can answer it. We can speculate, we can read quotes, we can look at his history and track record and progress. I will say, and I'll talk more about this on the show, I did have an opportunity after the presentation and after sort of the dust had settled to talk with folks who knew and worked for and with Walt and got their perspective on some of what was announced. Now, I will share that on the show because I think that's an interesting take. And there was one person in particular that I think was uniquely qualified to speak to some of the things that are garnering such very passionate responses. And I'll talk more about that on the show. Beth says, Pandora, not the bracelet, but the land. California is on my schedule once that is open. See, Beth, that's the perfect example, right? Because that's what Disney wants. It's what you need is you want to create something that is going to be an attractor for someone that may not have visited in a long time or may have never visited before. Pandora is going to do that for you. Cars is going to do that for someone else. Villains is going to do that for someone else. Monsters, Inc. is going to do that for an adult or maybe a child who's like, hey, I really want to go to Walt Disney World because I love Monsters, Inc. They don't just have a Monsters, Inc. attraction, but a land. And I'm really hoping that Harryhausen's is a sushi bar, but I digress. So that's the mindset when you are deciding, I'm assuming, when Imagineering, when executives are deciding what is to come to the Disney parks, that is where the mindset has to be. Because again, you're not just trying to attract a single fan or a single fan in this moment, but you're trying to attract generational fans and families to come. These attractions are not built for tomorrow, for 2025, 2027. These attractions are going to be here for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Like some of the ones that are getting removed, we have to understand that is the cycle. Walt was not around to see Disneyland for 10, 20, 40 years, right? Because then we'd be able to look back and say, well, look what happened. Look the attractions that went away to make room for others, whether it was in land or in world. Let me see. Let me quickly go through. Erica says, I haven't been to Tom Sawyer Island since I was 4, which was in 1990. Eric, I think that's a hugely valid point. Again, this is not about, I want to save this, but it's the Maelstrom issue, right? Everybody lost their marbles when Maelstrom was going away. Then you ask them, when's the last time you visited Maelstrom? Well, that's not the point. Well, no, it is the point. It's the absolute point. We say we love, so it's the ex-girl. I talk about, I call it jokingly the ex-girlfriend effect. It's the Adventurers Club, right? Like nobody went to the Adventurers Club until the Adventurers Club went away. Nobody. A lot of people didn't go to the Adventurers Club until it went away. They're like, no, I love you. Nobody went to Maelstrom until it was being taken away. I love you. I miss you. Please don't go. When's the last time you visited Rivers of America? Tom Sawyer Isle. When's the last time you went through the caves? When's the last time you rode the riverboat? there's a reason why. And I think there's also an additional logic behind it that I'll talk about when we record the episode, that I think will also sort of maybe bring to light some of the decision making that will also make sense as well. Let me quickly go. Dave Brookover says, World of Motion was my first and favorite ride in Walt Disney World. Very sad when it went away, but I still have memories and still get a smile to think about it, and it has been gone for decades. Right, and again, look, I loved Horizons. Like, I loved Horizons. I love the slow moving, like the future, the choose your own adventure at the end. Everybody was sad when it went away, but a part of the reason why I loved Horizons is because it was never a line for Horizons. And World of Motion was the same thing. We have fond memories. We love it. We miss it. But they were not guest satisfiers. And you know, at the end of the day, I want to save this for the show, but at the end of the day, remember, this is a business from the Disney side of things and from our side of things. I don't think anybody, look, they're going to create and sell and offer and satisfy way more people with Cars merchandise than they are with Tom Sawyer Island merchandise. I don't see, like, I can't go and buy like a little model replica of a Tom Sawyer, I mean, I would, of a Tom Sawyer Island raft or Harper's Mill or any of those things, which I love and are iconic, and I have such great memory. I can hear the sound of the raft going across, right? We can sort of smell the they're going to make, yes, financially huge returns on Cars merchandise, which is all we're the ones who buy it, right? It shows it's a guest satisfier. Like, that's what kids and adults want, are merchandise from more modern things that we know and love and are familiar. And I really should. I'm trying to save this for the podcast, and I can't. All right, let me see. Let me just quickly go through. Do you think the new ships will be all Wish-class ships? You know, Jonathan, I tried to look at, it's a great question. I tried to look at the concept art, and I think it's very nondescript for a reason. I think my hope and expectation is that they have listened to and will take feedback from the Wish-class ships, and as a company that's always looking to continually improve, they now have the runway to make modifications to any interior and exterior spaces that will be more, that will be in response to guest feedback. I will tell you, they listen. They listen very, very closely, and they respond. It might not be tomorrow, but I will tell you that they absolutely do respond. Jerry Applegate says, I'm torn. I'm excited and I'm sad. I'm thrilled and terrified. Jerry, I think that's a great way to, you know, we love Disney fans, like, we're so interesting. We love change. And I say this all the time. You want to make a Disney fan lose his mind or her mind, tell them you're going to change something. We love change and we hate change, right? We want change, but we want just expansion, and you can't always do that, right? Sometimes things have to go away. It's like you can only have so many toys in your toy box. Sometimes you have to take something out of the toy box to replace it with something else. You can't just always keep getting, wow, I'm just thinking about this, and I think it makes sense. Wait, you can't just, sorry, write this down. You can't just always get a bigger and bigger toy box. Sometimes you have to take some of the old toys out of the toy box, especially ones that you haven't played with in a while. Oh, I need to save this. I think this makes perfect sense, although I haven't eaten an hour, so maybe it doesn't. That's what Disney is doing, right? They are replacing toys in the toy box. Yes, they'll get us another toy box at some point, another fifth gate, or a bigger toy box, but sometimes this is what happens. Can somebody email this to me, because I think this makes total sense, and I really like that that metaphor. If it doesn't make sense, then just ignore me and let me know. Amber Bramble says, I'm so excited for villains and cars. I haven't stopped at Tom Sawyer Island in years and don't love the odd dead ends, so I'm excited about the extra magical experiences that will be added for a most part. That she skips. Exactly. And that is feedback that, and look, and I'll go into this in more detail. There are a lot of very legitimate, not just business reasons for Tom Sawyer Island being replaced with something else. If I was sort of tasked with having to argue, wait, I should say this. I'm going to write this down too. If I was tasked, so as an attorney, you sometimes don't get to pick what side, right? Sometimes you're sort of tasked, you have to make an argument for one side or the other. I can absolutely make an argument for replacing Tom Sawyer Island and keeping Tom Sawyer Island. My arguments for keeping Tom Sawyer Island will be 97% emotional based. It will. It'll be absolutely emotional based. I would have a very difficult time trying to find a financial justification for keeping that. There's a lot of other, and I'll talk more about this on the show, but my argument for one side can be both emotional and financial, but my argument for the other would primarily be just sentimental and nostalgic. I have two kids who aren't kids anymore, but who literally have grown up in Walt Disney World, right? They're 19 and almost 21. The amount of times that they said, hey, can we please go to Tom Sawyer Island? I could probably count on less than one hand. It's just not, and I know some kids love it. I know some adults love it, but there's also a lot of issues with it that we will talk more about. I have to make myself a note about, okay, because I'm going to forget something that I just thought of. So let me see. A lot of people upset about dinosaur going away. I get it. Jennifer Subko says, look, people unfortunately always find something negative in something. People don't like change, especially Disney fans. I personally am very excited for all the new adventures. It's hard to say goodbye, but it's hard to say what we hand into the amazing memories and now make new ones. That is very, very well said. Let's see. I love that Tropical Americas is going along with the other lands and bringing the culture and the food of Tropical Americas into the village they are creating. I do as well. Some people are very happy to see dinosaur go away. They thought about the giant Carnotaurus. Change is good. Are they getting rid of? I don't know. I am not going to even speculate on certain things because I am not qualified or ready. I look, without mentioning specifics, I think there's clearly rumors about, is Muppets going to be replaced? There's a whole separate argument and conversation to have, because Muppets and Tom Sawyer Island are two very different things for a wide variety of reasons. So we will talk about that on the podcast, which obviously has not been recorded as yet. We should record it right now. Like, anybody want to come over? We can record a podcast right now. Let me see. Mike Vidal says, don't completely ditch the riverboat. Keep it as a static. So Mike, I was like, well, what does one do with a riverboat that gets taken out of service that is sort of built for a very specific purpose? I mean, I think there's a way to, quote unquote, display it, but again, where do you put it? What do you use it for? Can you justify it financially? Look, we have to keep in mind, Disney is a business like any other business, and sometimes decisions have to be made that are based on economics and not purely on emotion. We would all love to have the riverboat just sit there as a sort of a static museum that we can, walk through. Realistically, can and will that happen? I'm not sure. Suzanne says, I'm ready for some change, so I'm intrigued by the villains area. It looks very cool. Somebody says, what is replacing the Speedway? Nothing. The Speedway has not been part of the conversation. Betsy Parkas says, Walt said it would never be finished. Betsy, you're sort of referring to what we all... it's very easy for us to sort of selectively pick out quotes, but I think I agree with you 100%. It's not a museum. It's never meant to be finished. There are multiple quotes from Walt that allude to that. And that's what I was talking about before, this idea that Walt not being alive for 40 years to say, Walt not seeing an attraction, being in Disneyland for 40 years to say, it's time to replace this thing. It's time to replace this thing that maybe when it was built touched on certain emotions and was attractors and maybe isn't. And I wonder, what sort of sentimental attractions that we love so much would Walt say, yeah, it needs to go to make way for something else. I think we would probably be surprised. And I did not know Walt. So gut feeling as a man who was not just a storyteller, but, a businessman as well. So, let me see. Tia says, 5 days later, I'm still staring at Anaheim maps trying to figure out where they'll put Pandora. They did not even address in words Disneyland Forward. I was telling some people, we're going to hear the word Westcott when they talk about Disneyland Forward. They didn't even mention Disneyland Forward. And that's what I mean. Like, it's an 800-pound plot of land gorilla sitting there by Disneyland that was not addressed, but certainly, there's going to be plans to do it in the future. So, Jonathan says, I welcome change and love when they add new things. Getting rid of the river on Liberty Bell feels different. It's a huge alteration to the character of the whole park. Jonathan, you are 100% correct. I think, and it's funny when somebody was referencing the audio guides before, the story that was being told, sort of making your way, up Main Street from Fantasyland into Liberty Square, through Frontierland, around to Adventureland, which 95% of guests don't see, don't notice, or probably don't care about, that is going to be altered, right? You can't sort of stand in Frontierland and be like, yes, the cars of the Old West. But sometimes you need to lose a little bit of that for something that serves a greater good and serves a greater number of guests. My audio tours are more out of date than ever, but I'm okay with it. And as sad as I am to lose the visual aesthetic, right? I like Tom Sawyer Island. I like walking along the banks of the rivers of America, which I do not think are going away, by the way. I think the water features are still going to stay there. I like Aunt Polly's. One of my favorite meets of the month ever was sitting at Aunt Polly's Dockside Inn. But I also know what Cars is going to bring to that in terms of, so I too am I'm torn, right? Sort of the local Disney fan who loves just being able to go there and be like, I just love the aesthetic. I love the sounds of the riverboat. I love, watching but I don't go to Tom Sawyer Island a lot. And, I think sometimes we have to sacrifice certain things for others. And please don't get mad at me for that. I have to be, I'm trying to be a realist in terms of how I am looking at things. So, Mel Pick says, I hate to lose so much history. My 3-year-old teens feel that we all lost so much with the removal of... Look, Great Movie Ride is a great example. It is a great example. Great Movie Ride, many of us have so many fond memories of, right? We love Great Movie Ride. We love the different scenes. The animatronics were, other than The Witch, were out of date. Most kids had no idea what most of those movies, save for maybe Wizard of Oz and Fantasia, were or are. I'll bet you a lot of kids don't even know who Tarzan is. But what makes more sense today in 2024? What makes more sense from a guest satisfier, guest attract? The lines for Runaway Railway are exponentially longer than they ever were for the Great Movie Ride. Great Movie Ride, like things like Tomorrowland, suffered from the issue of, well, how do we keep this current? How do we keep, we can't keep sort of replacing scenes every few years because people are scared of aliens or they don't know who Tarzan is. How do we keep it updated? How do we keep it fresh? Do we just keep replacing the movie at the very end? Or do we create the very first attraction that features Mickey and Minnie Mouse in it? and that kids and families don't have to worry being scared in. Or so again, I can sort of argue both sides. I can argue the emotional Disney fan side, which I am not ignorant of, but I sometimes, like this weekend, have to step back a little bit and say, okay, taking a little bit of the emotion out of it, because you can't make business decisions purely based on individual emotion. Does it make sense in a greater in the greater sort of scheme of things? So let me see. Art Miles says, I'm unsure about IP songs. I was unsure about IP songs on Country Bear until I found myself surrounded by little kids singing with their young parents. Art, that's a great point. Like, that's what I mean. For the people who were sad when you hear Country Bears closing and they're taking away these songs that we grew up with, and then you see that, right? I had the same experience when I watched it. Like, I saw the generation of a younger generation of cast members and guests behind me, like, just lighting up when they heard familiar songs, which will become their version of the Country Bear Jamboree. Like, I get it. I understand. I don't have to love or agree with every part of it, but I can see it, because I can't be selfish in my feelings towards, well, you can't take away my memories of Tom Sawyer Island. Well, you can if you have to make way for somebody else to create the same kind of memories that you had, right? The same gift that we were given has to sometimes be given to other people as well. I'm way behind on comments. Let me just quickly scroll through. A lot of excitement for the parade. A lot of excitement for the parade. I hope the Walt animatronic is top notch. I think he has to be. I think he will be. I think there's a lot of time and effort and being incredibly didactic about what that is going to be. Do I think the Walt animatronic, Greg Gately, is a step forward from the holographic Walt from the Disney 100 Archive Museum? Without a doubt. I mean, Greg, we know this is going to be a physical animatronic that is not just going to be an A100 or an A1000. It is going to be the next gen of audio animatronic figures. I think things that we've seen at D23 in the Imagineering booth in terms of technology, I think this is going to be the perfect opportunity to use it. I think there was discussion about, both Josh on stage and maybe even in our conversation that we had, the importance of getting this right. You get one shot. You get one shot to make a Walt animatronic right. They know that as guests come in, there is going to be very critical eyes looking at that, not just from his family, from the Disney company, but us as fans. I think we're going to see probably the next iteration in terms of technology. And we saw, even at the Imagineering booth, we saw sort of that progression of audio animatronics technology. I think what we're going to see with Walt is probably on a scale that we have not seen yet. Even in things like Tiana's, when we went, when I was able to go to Imagineering and see sort of behind the curtain and see the skeletal frames of the animatronic figures for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, they already are light years ahead of the A1000 figures that we're seeing elsewhere in the parks. Again, you've got to update technology. You've got to sort of modernize technology. Guest experiences and expectations are raised not just generationally, but year over year. Younger guests than us who they don't want to see audio animatronics technology that is years or decades old. Their expectation for what they want is very, very high. And it's why these things have to sometimes be updated and moved and sometimes lost along the way as well. I'm quickly scrolling as fast as I can. Beth says, I've wanted a roller coaster of doors since the first time I saw Monsters, Inc. I think we all did. Remember 2007, there was a very strong rumor that the project had been greenlit for Mickey Avenue. We did not see it then. We are finally seeing it now, so I get it. And Cassie brings up an interesting point. We don't know what's in store for Brazil. They have to be strategic about not announcing too much at one time to take away from the impact of each project release. I think Brazil is a fascinating. It'll be a fascinating study because it takes place in November in a country that they've never done an event like this before. But there's a huge segment of of guests that come from Brazil. I want to look back and I don't think I know. I want to look back at the D23s that they held in Japan in the past and see what, if anything, for the domestic parks was announced there. I don't recall. If anybody else does, please let me know. That might sort of give us a hint as to what may be coming there. So, there's people talking about a lot of. Heather Demmett says, after seeing the Avatar Pavilion at D23, I'm excited for the new land, and I'm not even a fan. I think that's very interesting. I think that there are some folks who truly love Avatar. I think Avatar is and I haven't seen the second one, which I think speaks volumes for me. As incredibly impressed as I was from a technological and a visual storytelling standpoint, I have zero emotional connection to Avatar. I know that Ripley from Aliens was in it, and Giovanni Ribisi was in it, who I just like as an actor. I can't tell you the name of any of the characters. I love the attraction. I cried the first time I rode the attraction because I was given that sensation of flight. But emotionally, I'm very disconnected from the films and the franchises. That does not take away my appreciation for them. But I, too, am excited for the experiences that they are going to bring us in the attraction. And certainly as the movie franchise continues to grow, maybe the attractions will help me get more. It's like now I haven't seen A Way of Water. Like the announcements for the attraction and the expansion makes me want to now watch a film that I did not necessarily feel that I needed to rush to go over and see. Again, I know I'm way behind. I'm trying to catch up as quickly as I can. Betsy Park says, call me a cockeyed optimist. I think Walt would be proud. I think that's the standard and the pressure that the executives and Imagineering feel. Steve Medina, good to see you, buddy. He says progress is a good thing. I also agree with you. If the Disney parks were static places, we would not feel the same way, right? And we were talking about, well, look what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is adding this, changing this. Progress, you're right, is a very good thing. A smart man once said, "Keep moving forward." Do they even have? I have never seen Tom Sawyer Island merch ever. I've never seen the Aunt Polly's Dockside Inn bib or apron somewhere. I'm not saying that people wouldn't buy it. I'm sure now on Etsy and TeePublic, there's Tom Sawyer Island, save Tom Sawyer Island shirts are popping up probably all over the place. Let me see. Chuck says, exactly, Lou. I'm sure I'm going to miss If You Had Wings. Oh, I forgot about that. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but the public didn't respond to them anymore. You're right. If You Had Wings, was a free attraction because we might have loved it, we might miss it, but was it something that was generating revenue? Was it something that was attracting? Look, if you're a business, you have to think like you're the business owner. If you are Disney, and don't say Disney has a lot of money. Well, they have a lot of money because they know what they're doing. If you're a business owner and you've got part of your business that's not generating revenue, you're going to replace that. I don't care if you're a shop owner, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're an automobile body shop, whatever your business, even if you're a service-based business, if there is an avenue of your business that is not generating revenue or not generating as much revenue as something else, you are going to change that. Even if people might love, I love that, I miss that section of the restaurant. Well, you might miss it, but you haven't been there in years. So I know if I change this portion of my restaurant to something else, it's going to attract more people. Disney is a business. it is a business. It is a business based on storytelling, but it is a business as well. We have to like remember that, and sometimes put ourselves, I think, into that position. So. Kira says, I'm grateful for the Imagineers. There are so many great people, but tons of time, heart, and passion to the ideas announced at D23. I want to honor their work. This week was a big unveiling for them. They should be so proud. Kira, you're right. And, it has to be hard for them to be like, look at all the things we worked on that we were so excited for, and look at the things that people are focusing on, right? And I do. I feel you make a great point, because I do feel bad for them, because they're human beings on the other side that are working so hard on this thing that they hope is going to be something that gets guests and adults and kids excited, and sometimes people get very people-y. So, all right, let me keep going on. Will the train still loop the park? I would bet dollars to donuts it absolutely has to. I think that the change to the Rivers of America is not going to be. I think there's still going to be a Rivers of America. I think the river. It's hard to see from the concept art. I think the river is still going to be there, and how we actually get to Cars Land is going to be interesting, right? There might not be a river boat. We don't know, but I do still think the water, and I think we're going to see additional new water features on Cars Land, which are actually going to hopefully enhance the views that we had before. So sometimes something that might make us sad might actually make us, there might be additional benefits to it as well. I'm quickly trying to catch up on. Let me see. A lot of excitement for whoever saw 4 new cruise ships coming. No, not even Becky Mankin, and she wanted 4 new. She wanted 1 new cruise ship. She got 4. We need a whole food show about all the food that come from Monstropolis to tropical America. I think this gives them like huge opportunity to. Oops, what did I just do here? Sorry about that. I didn't even. Oh, Mangello, what did you do? There you go. Wait, not quite. Hold it. Oh my gosh, I'm only making it worse. You do know I'm a one-man show here, right? Well, it's not perfect, but it'll do. All right, let me keep going forward here. And could the riverboat go to Disney Springs? Yes, but the riverboat it's a track. The riverboat is on, but it is an actual real working paddle wheeler. So theoretically, it could sort of ply waterways. I mean, I don't know what sort of the rudder and steering system is like, but it'll be very interesting to see where it goes and what they do with it. So Becky wants it to be a bar. Shocker of all shockers. Maybe they'll sell the riverboat like they did the cabins. Listen, if the riverboat shows up on eBay, you know somebody's going to bid on it. Tiana's restaurant with the Liberty Bell parked next to it. That's interesting, Chrissy. The only problem with that is that you would have to park it somewhere where you would have access to kitchen facilities, because obviously the riverboat just doesn't have it. It's just too small of a ship to do it. But it'll be very interesting to see what and where they move that to. A lot of people still missing great movie rides. Jennifer says, I'm interested to see how they'll incorporate Scar into the Villain's Land, because you know I want a Scar. Meet and greet. Let me see. So I love the Muppets, but either they need to update the land or replace it, because right now it's stagnant. That attraction has not changed in decades. Decades. I don't remember the last time I've walked into Muppets and seen a full house. It just is what it is. That's not, you take that from, we love Muppets, but whether you're local or You travel to come here. Is Muppets an every time you come here thing to do? Is it a multiple time every time thing that you need to do? Probably not. Is Tower like, you know what I mean? Like, so we have to sort of keep it in context and it's sort of an overall understanding. Let me see. Yes, I know Becky Menken was very scared of the Great Movie Ride. She was also scared of dinosaurs. She's also scared of Storybook Land canal boats, and I think she's also scared of the Muppets. But that's fine. Let me see. Was there any indication of Tropical America's model, actual animals being introduced into that land? I would say 99.9% no, probably not. It's just not conducive to that. You need obviously special provisions in order to have live animals there, and then where do you put them at night, etc. And that's not. I don't necessarily think that that's coming, but who knows? Gary Witt. It was nice to meet your family over the weekend, Gary. Is there any other company people are so passionate about to the point where fans get upset about changing a walkway or a water fountain? Not to mention, but Gary, like, that's it, right? Like, no other company, not only are people this passionate about, but the brand loyalty that this company has is second to none. I think that speaks volumes to the fact that we do have an emotional attachment to Disney in a way that other companies don't, right? Great Adventure never had to worry about like replacing an attraction because nobody was like chaining themselves to the fence in Jackson, New Jersey for Great Adventure. People aren't doing that in other places where things change. And that's the blessing and the curse, right, of having such deeply passionate fans. But I think at the end of the day, save for maybe Stitch's Supersonic Celebration, like they know what they're doing. They know what I haven't thought about Stitch's Supersonic Celebration in years. They know what we as fans will ultimately, maybe not immediately, but ultimately be happy about. And I think that there's a lot of examples to that over the years. Do I think that the new ships will open up new markets? Asia, Australia, maybe a world cruise? I think, Janelle, that's a great question. I think what it's going to probably open up is more ships in Europe. We'll talk more about this with Becky, who obviously knows the cruise industry. But I think you'll see ships permanently docked in places like Europe, in places like the West Coast of the States, which I think will be a huge guest satisfier and make cruising more accessible to more people, especially domestically. The fact that there'll be 13 ships in the fleet gets me very, very excited. Jeff C. popping in saying, totally agree about not having an emotional connection. Love the 3D tech, but I don't have a connection like Star Wars or Marvel. And listen, with a beard like that, how can you argue with Jeff? Let me quickly try and catch up. Jim Rohosky very well said, you cannot let nostalgia get in the way of progress. I agree with you 100%, and I don't think that is something that Walt ever let happen as well, both on screen as well as in the parks. Let me see, any final comments before we... Jim O'Neill, do I think anything in the Magic Kingdom is untouchable? Carousel of Progress, Haunted Mansion, or Gasp, the Castle? Yes, I do. I do think certain things are untouchable, but I'll put an asterisk on that because there may come a time in the future where guest expectations based on advancements in storytelling, technology, a combination of both, or guests start to get tired of things that have been around for a long time. I mean, certainly the castle. Look, the castle is not untouchable because it has changed, right? It's been adorned with other little accoutrements. The color has changed. The texture has changed in certain areas. So the castle clearly is not untouchable. I wish it was untouchable when Stitch toilet papered it. I'm still scarred by that, but I move on. Carousel of Progress is an interesting one. For years, like, well, we have to update the final scene. Will that get a lot of people upset? You better believe it. Does updating every scene get people upset? It probably will. Does not touching it and not updating it get people upset? It absolutely does. If you removed Carousel of Progress, people would lose their marbles. It's Walt. I get it. How many of you ride the Carousel of Progress every single time you go to Walt Disney World? How much Carousel of Progress merchandise does it sell? What kid asks their parent, hey, could you please go sit in Carousel of Progress, unless they're trying to get out of the heat? These are the questions that we have to ask, because those are the questions that Disney has to ask themselves as well. And I think we have to be sensitive, not just to our own personal, emotional, sentimental, nostalgic feelings. We have to be sensitive to the other side from the business perspective, what it looks like as well. And I think it's, you say, well, Disney has so much. You can't do that, right? Because it is a business, and they're not just looking at us as guests, those of us who were born in the late 60s, but they're looking at the guest who was born in the 2000s, in the 2020s. You have to think about it not just in a short-term vision, but a very long-term vision as well. And I think that's sometimes selfish, almost, not intentionally, but selfish of us to think only about what's going to make us happy. I think what's going to make my kids happy. I can't say the G word, but what would make someone else's grandkids happy. That's because we're not thinking, Disney is not just thinking about 5-10 years from now. They are thinking 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, and what people are going to want. So let me just quickly see. I see a lot of talk about Muppets and villains, and I think Muppets can be a whole nother conversation. Galveston needs a cruise ship. Do I think Marvel will ever come to Walt Disney World? Absolutely, without question. I think Marvel will come to Walt Disney World. There was almost a hint that we may have seen something for this year, but I think that plane is already in flight. I think the Marvel plane is already in flight. So, forgive me that I can't read and respond to every comment. I'm trying desperately to let me see. By the way, I'm not saying that they're going to replace or do anything to Carousel of Progress, just so you know. I still love Carousel of Progress. Like, and for the story of Tomorrowland, right? Because there was at one point a very not well known or understood, but there was a story of Tomorrowland in terms of this being this futuristic intergalactic spaceport. And if you go and listen to my audio tours of Tomorrowland, which you can still listen to for free on Spotify, the Carousel of Progress makes sense according to story because it was a museum. The Carousel of Progress, according to the story of Tomorrowland, was a museum, and you were sort of going through this interactive, almost exhibit, taking you through the passage of time. It's why the 80s scene and the final scene was never changed, because that was representing a time in the past, not being meant to represent the future of Tomorrowland. It's harder sometimes to rationalize or explain that to some people if they don't know or understand that was the story, or at least the way to sort of fit it into the story of Tomorrowland. Because I know a lot of people who don't understand that will ride, or have no emotional attachment to Carousel of Progress, will ride and go, well, this is lame. Like, there's nothing new, there's nothing modern. This futuristic scene is showing technology that's 40 years old. So you have to think not just about us as the nostalgic, sentimental guests, but you have to think about the family that's coming to Disney World for the very first time, that does not have the emotional connection or the memories of Tom Sawyer Island. We'll use Carousel of Progress or some of these other attractions that we know and love so much, but that they have never seen before. And I speak for myself when I sort of use the word, I can't be selfish and say, you can't touch this because it means so much to me. I have to be generous and say, I want you to create something that's going to make those same memories for somebody else long after I am gone from this planet. So that's how I understand it. And I'm sure that I will get my fair share of grief if and when I say this on the show that I understand, and that's fine. I will live and die on the hill that, I plant myself on. But we all, I think, have to keep in mind that they, look, I would not want to be the decision maker in terms of, we want to build this thing. This is great. What do we have to take away? Because they know this and they understand this. And if you listen to the conversation that I had with Josh, I think you'll hear that from him too. The understanding of the criticism that they were, and will continue to get, and having to balance all that out. I invite you to do a couple of things. If you haven't already, please don't just listen to my conversation with Josh from this past week, but I invite you to please share this with others. And I certainly welcome any and all feedback, like Disney, positive, negative, or otherwise. I'd also like for you to go back and listen to our prediction show and our wish list. What did we get right? What did we get wrong? What were we completely way off base on? And even go back to show 795, where, as we talk about not just this year's Expo, but some of my 5 most favorable, most memorable moments from past Expos. And don't just give me feedback on the content of that show, but the idea of, this is the first ever show that I've done by myself, which I was a little nervous about. Let me know what you think about me doing sort of solo episodes like that. Keep your comments coming. Please, the Clubhouse, I built the Clubhouse for you to populate, for you to have conversations. It's why I like the group better than a page, because everybody has an equal voice there. My only request is that you be civil and you be kind and you be understanding, not just in the Clubhouse, but like in life as well. Like I almost got it right. The choose the good thing is not just about Disney. Like it's a life thing as well. And I hope that you do that. Have civil conversations, even if you don't agree. If you think I'm an idiot, that's fine. Maybe don't call me an idiot. That's okay. But we're talking about a theme park. We're talking about a place that we love that means a lot to us, and I get it. But have mature, adult, civil conversations without name calling. The Clubhouse will never become like some of the other places and groups and boards that we see elsewhere online, because we do collectively and individually choose the good. We treat each other with respect, and then hopefully that carries out into real life. That being said, I want to hear from you, right? Call the voicemail, 407-900-9391, 407-900-WDW1. Let me know what you think about the episode with Josh, about our predictions, about the announcements. I will play it on the air. I can't play every voicemail because I get a lot sometimes during the week. If you're passionate one way or the other, if they have something that you want to share, call the voicemail, and I will do my best to try and play it on the show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being so passionate. Thank you for spending and sharing your time, listening to the show, being part of the conversation tonight. I really, really enjoyed hearing from you. I want to continue to keep this conversation going, whether it's on my Instagram posts, whether it's in the Clubhouse, or by calling the voicemail. A couple of things I want to quickly remind you about. I'm a handshake and a hug kind of guy. There's a lot more that we have coming up in the future. We have a number of events, including our multiple adventures by Disney to Disneyland and Hollywood, our Seine River Cruise, and Japan, which is where I cannot wait to go, May 18th through the 27th. You can get a free no obligation quote and learn more by going to www.radio.com/Japan25. We are also going to Disneyland and Hollywood. We've added a second date, going to the studios, archives, Imagineering, Walt's apartment, Disney California Adventure. There's a lot of fun and maybe a few surprises in there as well. We also have our Seine River Cruise to Paris and Normandy. And don't forget about our cruises. There's still time to join us. We have a few spots left for our Halloween on the High Seas cruise. I have not 1, not 2, not 3, but possibly 4 costume. I might be the only person in costume all 5 days. It doesn't matter. I cannot wait And then we also have our cruise on the Disney Treasure, February 8th through the 15th, 2025. You can learn more about both of those and get a quote by going to www.com/cruises. And I'm not telling you that October 26th might be a date that you want to save, because that would be, if I do, Becky would lose her marbles. So I'm not saying that at all. But if you want to join us on any of these adventures or create one on your own, and by the way, huge thanks to Mouse Fan Travel for being such an important part of my D23 and our D23 experience in the WWO Mouse Fan Travel booth. Go and visit them. You can get a free, no obligation quote. And remember, all their services are completely free to you. They don't charge you anything to give you this concierge level of service and treat everyone like they are a member of the family. None of this happens without Mouse Fan Travel, and certainly none of this happens without you. And I thank you for being part of our family, our community. I would love to it is a gift for me to be here. You have given me this life and this experience, and it's why I want to try and help you do the same thing. I've created a brand new mini course that you get over 5 days via email. It's just $7. If you're looking to start taking the thing that you love and turn it into the thing that you do, you can find out how to do it, and it's only $7. I also have a few spots. I think we're down to 9 seats left for my Momentum Weekend workshop in Walt Disney World this September. It is, I promise you, a interactive, transformative event. I just announced our speakers and sessions. If you want to launch and grow and, yes, monetize your idea, your business, take it to the next level, we have an incredible lineup of speakers and sessions this year. You're going to do the work in the room. You're going to create things that will help you get to that next stage. And I've extended a special discount code where you can save not $100, but $200 using code LOU200. If you go to LouMongello.com/momentum. And if you are not sure if momentum is right for you, just reach out and let me know. I dare you. Oh, I can't say. 2024, October. I did not say October 26, 2024. I did not say this October 2024 because, again, Becky would just lose her marbles. Anyway, I love you. I appreciate you. Let's see if I can make it happen again. There we go. Wait, how do I get the fireworks? I don't know how to do the firework thing. Well, whatever. It's not working. Anyway, please don't forget, if you're not already part of the community and conversation over in the clubhouse, go to www.com/community. Invite your friends to join as well. And a huge thanks to everyone who is part of the Nation family. I went shopping for you in Disneyland yesterday, Monday, I don't know what day it was, to bring you some stuff back from Disneyland. And finally, most importantly, thank you. Thank you for the gift of your friendship and your time and your attention and support and love. And I love you back in return. So I hope you have a great night, a great week. If there's ever anything I can do for you, please reach out to me and let me know. 2 thumbs up. It's not working. There you go. A little bit of fireworks, like Walt wanted, a little bit of fireworks to end the night. Have an amazing night, an amazing week. So until next time, see ya.